I'm Tony Perkins, and you're listening to Washington Watch. Again, the website, tonyperkins.com. All right, I don't know if you, we talked about this extensively yesterday, and you may have seen the hearing, but the Senate had a hearing yesterday on COVID-19, the coronavirus, and one of the issues that was brought up was a report by the Associated Press that they had obtained a 63-page document of guidelines that were presented by the CDC on the reopening of the country. And, of course, they were making issue out of this, and the left is, the media is making an issue out of it, that these guidelines are more restrictive than what the White House actually put out on April the 17th. Now, the White House, they're saying that they shelved the CDC guidelines and put out their own. Well, they used parts of them, they put them out. But the question is, who's running the country? Is it the CDC or is it the president that was elected? Joining me now to talk more about this is Congressman Greg Murphy. He represents North Carolina's 3rd Congressional District, and he is a member of the House GOP Doctors Caucus. Congressman Murphy, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Good evening, Tony. Thank you for having me.
So I'm just going to put it out there as best as I know how. I mean, the CDC, this is their focus. They're focused on health care, but the White House is focused on the whole nature of running a country. And so is it any surprise that they look through the guidance, they take part of it, and they put it out? They don't put all of it out. Is that a problem?
Personally, I don't think so. Let's look and see what the key word is, and that's called guidelines. Guidelines. We get those in medicine all the time, and they are general recommendations that are to be used to adapt to certain circumstances. And that's what the administration, that's what the president's done. We as physicians sometimes get narrow focus into just specific aspects of disease, and that's what the CDC does. That's what they're doing. They're honing in on an infectious disease. But the president and his administration have a responsibility not only to the health of the country in a medical aspect, but to the welfare of the entire country. And that means getting back to work. That means the psychological aspect of getting out of your home. And so it's a big picture kind of thing. You can have one narrow focus, and that's fine, but you have to be able to look at the big picture, and that's what the president and his administration are doing.
And that's what we want the CDC to make, those very focused, narrow prescriptions, guidelines, suggestions, because that's their role. That's what they do. But then the president has to take that and mix it in with everything else. So my beef is not with the CDC. I think they're doing what they should do. I think they'd be a little more efficient, but they're doing what they're supposed to do. The issue is with the media. That's all of a sudden saying, oh, whatever the CDC says, whatever Dr. Fauci says, that is what we need to do. I mean, to me, that's absurd.
Well, I agree completely. Dr. Rand or Senator Rand pointed out yesterday that Dr. Fauci is just one physician giving his opinion about things, and that's great. We have a lot of times that a lot of us physicians and surgeons, we don't agree with one another. So, again, it has to be taken a little bit with a grain of salt. I will tell you there are oftentimes different personalities that go into different types of medicine. I'm a surgeon. I'm pretty direct. I'm pretty much see a problem, deal with it, and move on with it. Infectious disease doctors tend to be a little bit more doom and gloom about things. And, of course, they want to play the worst-case scenario because that's great. But usually the truth is somewhere between, and that's where I think this nation needs to go.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your home state of North Carolina. You have a Democratic governor, and, your state's still in this basically stay-at-home lockdown, whatever you want to call it, until, I think, May 22nd. So it's still ongoing there in your state. I mean, how's that working out?
Well, I actually spoke with the governor this afternoon and have expressed my concerns really for the last 4 months. And that's one thing that, I get to do because I'm a doctor, and I can't get anybody saying to me I don't understand the data, because I do understand the data. And I believe we are being much more restrictive than what the data indicates. I believe we have an avenue that today we could open up a lot more than we could in a safe and efficient manner. I'm afraid and I'm concerned that, the Republican National Convention is in August. And I'm afraid and concerned that our Democratic governors are seeing this much more of a political issue And I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but that concerns me greatly.
Let me ask you this, Congressman Murphy. The president very eager to get the economy moving again. I mean, I think he took unprecedented efforts or steps rather to slow the spread, telling people to stay, to distance, to stay at home. Of course, that was enforced by the governors. But now he wants to get the economy going again. It's time to reopen society. Do you support the efforts and the steps that he's taking now?
Well, I support the efforts that the science means that today we could move forward a little bit. There's been so much restriction on things, I believe, needlessly. You look at hair salons. Let's just take those one specific example. I'm a physician. I've been seeing a lot of patients in the last couple of weeks when we've not been in D.C. to just try to help with the backlog. I wear a mask. They wear a mask. What's the difference between a hair salon stylist or a barber doing the exact same thing? There's no difference whatsoever. So I believe people are selectively looking at pieces of data and using them to push a political agenda at this point, which I believe is contrary to what we really should be doing in this nation. Rather than uniting, I believe it's tearing our nation apart.
And I would agree with that. I think we need to take the necessary precautions. We need to follow the guidelines. But I do think it's time to begin reopening. It's time to allow small businesses to do what they have invested, in some cases, their entire life in doing. And then I also think it's time for our churches to be able to meet again.
Amen. Amen to that. So I agree with you completely, and we need to be on the other side of the curve. We're only going to get there by opening up. I
agree. Congressman Greg Murphy, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Congressman Greg Murphy of North Carolina. He represents the 3rd Congressional District. He is a member of the House GOP Doctors Caucus. A lot of doctors in Congress.